where news comes first. This is ABC-7 Extra.
Welcome to ABC-7 Extra Sunday. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Ross. Being a member of a school board in El Paso is not an easy task. Case in point, the El Paso School District's Board of Trustees and their unpopular decision to end the contract of Superintendent Diana Saavedra without providing any reasons for the termination. The firing came after back-to-back special board meetings. The first meeting on May 27th ended with no action being taken after a marathon executive session. This past Tuesday night, the executive session lasted a little less than 2 hours before the board approved a voluntary separation agreement with Superintendent Saavedra. Then, voting to approve the district's chief financial officer, Martha Aguirre, to serve as interim superintendent beginning on June 16th. It's important to note that these decisions were made with two new board members who had been on the job for less than a month. So what does it take to be a school board member? Tonight, we'll talk with two men who have been in that role and get their insight. Joining me are Israel Arabali, former EPISD District 5 trustee and former board president, and Dee Margo, former president of the El Paso School District Board of Managers. That Board of Managers took over control of the district in 2013 when Superintendent Lorenzo Garcia was convicted in 2012 of credit manipulation of students at Bowie High School, and the trustees were removed by the Texas Education Commissioner for lack of oversight. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on tonight. Mr. Arabali, you served on the Board of Trustees from 2021 until earlier this year when you lost your reelection bid. You had a couple of major challenges while you were on the school board, the selection of a superintendent, and then the decision to close 8 elementary schools. What are some of the lessons that you took away from your time on the board?
You know, Mark, you said it right at the very beginning, which is it's not easy being a trustee, especially in El Paso. And I think being a part of the named district, school district, it makes it even more difficult because of the politics that get into it. But some of my main takeaways are you're only as good as the team of 8 that are together. And so that's the 7 trustees and the superintendent. We saw in our superintendent search, it's no secret that there was some controversy and some surprises and drama there. And you know, we were able to overcome that. And under the leadership of Diana Saavedra, we were able to accomplish a lot of great things throughout that time. But we all knew it was going to come to a head with the decision to close down schools. And during that one, it was about respecting the community, listening to the community, and bringing the data and information to the light so that it was a transparent conversation. And the other thing I'll tell you is, you know, one of the biggest lessons is training matters for boards. You as a trustee have very specific duties as outlined by the Texas Education Code. Without that training, trustees begin to wander off, and trying to pull them back in is like herding cats.
That's a good way of putting it. Mr. Margo, when you were on the Board of Managers as president back in 2013, what were some of the challenges that you faced, and what were the lessons that you took away from it?
Well, the trustees were removed actually in 2012 we were appointed, but because of litigation filed by the existing trustees, we weren't formally installed until May of 2013. And at the time, the state only allowed us 2 years with the Board of Managers, and now you can have 4 or 5, which I thought we needed 3 for a cultural change. But what we ended up doing as a Board of Managers, and I served with some great people, is we did a complete revamp. It was like a $500 million business turnaround. That was the budget at the time. I mean, we revamped the internal auditor position. We revamped curriculum and instruction. We revamped every single department from A to Z. So it was a brand new, it was a startup. And we did an analysis of every aspect of EPISD. It was truly an internal audit function on behalf of the Board of Managers. And we had at the time about a $20 million deficit when we walked in. And we were able to close it without having to raise taxes or invade the fund balance. We found that prior administrations and were invading the fund balance to buy school buses instead of amortizing them over the length of time that they needed, which is about 20 years. A school bus lasts about 20 years, and you just amortize for what you need and set it aside accordingly. But they were always waiting and going into the fund balance. So And those are the reserves. For your audience, that's the reserves that the district has, that every district has. They're all called the fund balance. So, yeah, you know, ours was a complete turnaround from A to Z, start to finish. It was everything. And new heads of every department, and we had to go hire a new superintendent. So,
when you were on ABC-7 Extra Sunday last week, you said that being on a school board is a tougher job than being on city council or being on commissioner's court. What exactly makes it tougher than those other two positions?
Well, my characterization wasn't that it was necessarily tougher, it was that it was more important. To me, the most important race one can run is for school trustee. The reason I say that is because historically, the schools have a higher budget allocation in dollars, number one, from a fiduciary standpoint, than cities or counties. By far, our county. The operating budget for EPISD was about the same size as the general operating budget for the city of El Paso. And yet the outcomes and what you're working on is the economic viability of a community is solely predicated on the education of its workforce. And the fiduciary responsibility of a trustee is to oversee the school district and the outcomes for our children, which is our future. And that's why I've always said from the time I served as on the board of managers going forth that the most important race one could run is for school trustee.
Now, Mr. Irabroli, you've gravitated towards management positions and leadership roles throughout your career. What are some of the pressures of being on a school board and being president of that board?
There's a lot of them, but I'll tell you one of the most difficult parts is, and you know, to my trustees that are serving on the board now, they alluded to it on Tuesday night, which was there's some information that you can't come out there and just say, right? There's executive session for a reason. There's attorney-client privilege. You just can't talk about some things. And the community many times wants 100% transparency and clarity and information, and you can't. And so it's really balancing what you can share in this elected role, what's good for the district, what's good for the community, and really find that happy balance. Because at the end of the day, if you lose the trust of your constituents in your community, no matter what initiative or policy you push forward, there's no buy-in, there's no respect for it, and so it's gonna fail. And so that's definitely one. And another one is, as a trustee, I think we forget we're not representatives, we're trustees, right? You have a very finite, limited scope of responsibilities. And when you forget that, it causes just disruption throughout the entire system. And I believe with Ms. Saavedra, we brought in the most amazing superintendent that EPISD has seen in its history. And I put a lot of faith in that. And I gave her the breadth to kind of move around, do what she needs to do, make the decisions that she needs to make. And it was my job to support her and challenge her on the data, the facts, and the information. So, you know, it's a balancing act. You know, in a leadership role, you want to take initiative, you want to be the doer. And in a trustee role, that's not your job. Your job is to provide oversight, ask the questions, add clarity and transparency to the conversation.
Still to come, what kind of orientation did our guests receive when they first took on their board roles? Stay with us. You're watching ABC-7 Extra Sunday.